Welcome to Deep Thought, Holistic Thinking. Now, I know people have definitely heard about holistic living. That's usually the people who get into holistic living are people who, they're looking at everything that they put into their body and their lifestyle and everything, right? They tend to be, at least eat better, have strong tendency to be vegan, definitely into the alternative medicine, looking at the whole body and everything. But, holistic thinking is really the same thing, but it's just life, period. Looking at the big picture, right? Seeing everything that affects something that's going on, right? Let me give a few examples, right? Think about like a few years ago, one of the things that really hit the retail industry like hard was it was a warm winter. Now, someone would say, well, how does that affect the retail industry? Well, the retail industry, even though they talk about other factors like automation and everything, and just to be clear, this ain't for the business stuff, but this is just an example of looking at the big picture, thinking holistically. Now, a few years ago, it was real warm, and a lot of retail establishments didn't make any money, or not as much money as they're used to, right? Like one of the things they had a problem selling was coats. Like winter coats sell obviously in the winter, but if people aren't, if they ain't really cold, they don't think about buying coats, or they don't think about buying things like scarves, hats, gloves, anything of that nature, or even warmer clothes. Clothes that keep them warm. So they took a hit, and it was something beyond their control. Everybody's looking at all this automation, but sometimes the weather can affect something. That's holistic thinking in a nutshell. You're looking at every single thing that's going to affect how things are working for you, or how things are working for society, right? Like, for example, like years ago, I've mentioned before that I've had a book stand, right? Now, one of the things I'm thinking about when I was at that book stand was the neighborhood that I'm in, where I was selling it. How literary was this neighborhood? Right? Is this the type of people who are going to buy this type of subject? Are they going to buy the fiction stuff? Like, for example, if I'm in a neighborhood and it's mostly, say it's middle-class black women, right? A lot of middle-class black women, a lot of professional types. The books I would have would actually focus more on fiction, that it would have an emphasis on fiction that they would want for more like entertainment and stuff, right? Because that's the tendency. Anybody who's a bookseller will say women will buy fiction more while men will buy nonfiction more. Right now, say I change that neighborhood. Say it's like in a more working class neighborhood, but it's a lot of like conscious people in the neighborhood, like a lot of people like more into alternative lifestyles or stuff. And when I say I shouldn't say it like that, because I'm not talking about like the gay community or anything, but more into they more the conscious type, Pan-African type. If I was in that type of neighborhood selling some books, of course I would sell more nonfiction. But see, that's because I'm looking at the whole picture, or even just looking for mates. A lot of times people say they have trouble finding a mate. I'm like, you may have to move. Because it's not just so much as you, it's so much as how you interacting with the environment. Like if you're a real educated type of person and you grew up in a middle class environment, you might not appeal if for whatever reason you live in say a poor neighborhood. It could be 1,000 reasons. It could be 1,000, and it happens to some people. You might not interact with that neighborhood or the people in that neighborhood as much. They just not you, because it's definitely a class thing. Or if you're a type of person and you non-Christian, say you're an atheist or something, right? but you live in an area where the church presence is strong, it might not work with you. See, a lot of people, when they look at their situations or as they go through life, you got to look at everything. You got to look at how this is going to affect it, because that's one thing I'll do. I'll go through some place and think about how this is going to affect whatever. Like where I live now, I picked up on something. People leave their car doors open a lot. And people will warm up their cars and walk away a lot. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, why are they doing that? And then I look at the crime blotter from my area, and I'm like, if you might have 5 items, really less than 5. It's very rare I hear police sirens, like actually rare. You know, I'll hear a fire engine siren, and usually even when I hear that, they usually just testing something. They usually, anybody familiar with fire departments know they sometimes they'll just go on a run just to make sure all their shit's working right? Excuse my Francais. But because of that, people it's a certain thing. And I know I use a lot of this for business, but it's also life, right? I use a lot of this for business. Like another thing in my area, there's a running store that sells nothing but running shoes that they make a good living. Been there for about 12 years. But they're going to do that because you live in an area where a lot of people run. And see, that's a business thing. That's a social thing. Like, always look around for everything. And see, that's just on a micro level. If you look on a macro level, if you're going to ask, okay, why are things happening? Like this thing with the economy now and everything. And I know this is really a business thing, but business is really life if you really think about it. I saw this coming back in 2001 because I used to read the business pages a lot. In fact, I go straight, a lot of people here for the sports sections or the style section, newspaper wise, I get the business section and just look through bankruptcies and it was always some corporation. It was always like some factory or some business and stuff like that going out. And I said, this is going to cause a problem, And in fact, as jacked up as it seems, I remember I saw a report. This is about the prison industry. And I think it was in one town. I forgot which town it was, but they said they could calculate the number. They would calculate the number of beds they would need for a prison at a certain time by looking at the number of black boys in kindergarten. As jacked up as this is, that's holistic thinking. Holistic thinking is just looking at everything affecting you and whatnot, right? True story. Knew this woman, right? Broke up from her man, right? Broke up from her man and thought, one of those typical, I can do better thing, right? And I was like, okay. But then when they did actually broke up, her life got worse. Because all she saw was like one little part that he wasn't doing. She didn't think holistic. She didn't look at the big picture. She only saw one part of what he was doing that she didn't like, which could have been fixed. And I told her that. I was like, I could have talked that out, right? But she was like, I'm going to do better than everything. Then when she finally broke up, all sorts of hell broke loose because she didn't think about the whole picture. She didn't think about what else that he brought to the table. He was preventing her from facing a lot of stuff because he was a protective type of dude. So it was a lot of shit. She didn't have to work. All of a sudden she had to work, and all of a sudden shit that she used to could do, she didn't have time for it now. A lot of things she couldn't get into. She couldn't focus on it because she didn't think holistically. See, holistic thinking is just taking every single thing into consideration, looking at everything, like the price of gas. That affects a lot. That affects a lot of people because if you notice, like, the gas prices seem to go down around Christmas. It always goes down during the holiday season. One, a lot of people driving more. That's part of it. Two, if you think about it, and this is a more cold-blooded thing, if people spend a lot on gas, they ain't gonna spend enough on presents. Now I know some people will probably just say, well, more people using gas now, and that's a part of it, but they ain't gonna spend as much. And I know it never fails. It never fails. But you gotta always look at that. You gotta always look at it. Like if you play in the stock market or something, and it's amazing how you use in business, but maybe because I'm business minded, right? In fact, let me use something else. Let me use the relationship thing again. Let me use the relationship thing, because a lot of people get into that. You have to think what's going on in the environment, right? What type of person you gonna have in the environment? Say you a type of dude and you like those ghetto type of women, those ratchet type of women, right? That's what really turns you on. But you live in an affluent area, and then you might not think, wait a minute, I can't really, I ain't gonna find the women I want in this area, or I have trouble relating to them, And you might just say to women, but, a few smarter people will say, oh, it's, these just ain't my types and stuff. But that's that's affecting you, Or even the type of people that's even in the neighborhood. What's going on around there? What's the business around there, right? Right. I keep coming back to that business thing, but like I said, business is life. Most people spend most of their time either not so much being in business for themselves, but making money or trying to make money. But say you are a business owner and you right next to a factory, all right, and you making money. You really making money because those factory workers are coming in, but then that factory goes out, and then not only your business, but every business in town starts to take a hit because the main thing there is gone. See, when you analyze something, look at everything. It's like, what's going on, right? Like, one of the things I'm seeing now is there's been a slight shift. It's a slight shift going on with the men considered select. It's very slight. It's very subtle. And I think part of it is I ain't even gonna say I think part of it is just a change in economic situation now. Women can't afford just to chase a broke Mr. Goodbar anymore. They can't do that. It's getting to the point they can't afford to like sponsor some dude just because he got cute eyes or something. So it's changing slightly. It's changing slightly. I haven't seen the final form yet because it's very, like I said, it's very subtle. It's very subtle because one of the things I'm noticing is how women are responding to good-looking men on social media. And I know somebody say, well, how's that happening and stuff? All you do is pay attention. They ain't going as crazy gaga as they did maybe a couple years ago. All right? So I'm like, okay, there's been a slight change. They looking at something different. Even like something like this beard, women going crazy over beards. That's representing a slight change. So it's like, okay, if they going crazy over beards, what is it just the beards or is something else going on? One of the things happening is the financial environment is changing, the business and money environment. Women can't focus on the boy toy like they used to. They looking for the more mature man. So that's a big part of why the beard thing is even getting big. See, everything you got to do. Any trends, if you see a trend that happens, right? Any trend, ask yourself what else is happening to make that trend come about. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Nothing. So just I always say, and this is something I say to people, because people are surprised. They say I always pick up on little things. It always amazes people. That's because I look at everything. I'm that type of person. I go in a room or something. One, I find every exit. Yeah, misspent childhood, but I locate every exit. I always sit where I can see everything. And in most cases, when I go in a restaurant, I always sit where I can see the door. Like I know everybody in there. I just look around and stuff, right? But that's a part of it. That's like taking in the whole environment, And it's like you need to if you approaching anything in the future, you're going to do anything, regardless if it's business, it's in relationships, it's whatever you do. Always look at every factor. You got to take in everything, weather, the neighborhood, or like what's going on politically, what type of TV shows. I mean, everything goes into it because it's gonna come back to affect you in one way or another. So anyway, that's it for today. Just think on this.